I work together with a lot of entrepreneurs, and we often do not just psychological coaching, in some aspects it's even psychotherapy. And I want to share a little bit why and how this might be helpful. So first of all, 100% of your clients are human beings, and 100% of your employees, if you have any, are also human beings. If you don't understand humans, you don't understand business. And your personality and the characteristics that you have, and the patterns that you have, those are basically like a tree. You're the root of the tree, and that branches out, not just in your romantic relationships, in your friendships, and the way you go throughout your private life, but of course also in your business life. That's affecting it directly. And if you hit some barriers, sometimes it might be very helpful to take a closer look. Where is this coming from? And how could we potentially even solve that? All right, I want to share 2 examples, just an example how this might help. For example, a client, C for a client, is somebody who's very overwhelmed, very stressed out about things, and he's always like taking over responsibility, and he has a hard time to actually delegating and letting go. Basically, the topic is about control. And we noticed that actually his parents got divorced when he was 8. So the dad was basically gone. And the mom was actually depressed about this. She cried a lot, depression. And as a child, what often happens here, when the client, for example, is 8, is that he takes over the father role. It's called parentification. When early on in your childhood you take on the parent role, parentification, and you start to stabilize your mom. And you're kind of like maybe the funny guy, or you never talk about your own problems, you're there for your mom, you listen, you're a very good kid, but you can't actually be the child who you should have been at this stage. And basically, this is a lot of losing control. Family breaks apart, mom is depressed, and that you started to try to take over control. And this is a task you were not done, and you shouldn't have taken over. I mean, you did, and you stabilized the family and your mom especially in a way, but this is a task you can't fulfill. You try to assert control because this is such an uncontrollable situation, which makes a lot of sense that you tried that. But this also just made you feel overwhelmed because you're a kid and you needed parents yourself, and you tried to help your mom get over her depression, which you're not made to do for, and you can't even finish that. As a result, you feel like I need to have this control. This is a coping strategy, and I can't let go, and I need to manage that. And if not, something very extremely bad happens. Maybe my mom even abandons me, maybe my mom even dies. That would mean that I would die. So it's a very existential threat. And nowadays, in your business, you kind of like go through the same pattern. You maybe pick even tasks that are too big for you because you're used to do that. I always need to manage the unbearably huge thing, and I always need to have control. So again, the topic of control then comes in, control, and I always need to manage it. I can't let it go, I can't relax, I can't just trust somebody else and delegate my tasks. And you walk around through that as well. Maybe that's exactly the reason why you have a business, that's exactly the reason why you're actually running a successful business. Of course, it could be always more successful, but you're doing fine. And this is exactly what brought you even here at this point, right? Because you're taking so much responsibility, you're working hard, you're disciplined, and you learned this early on that you can't rely on anybody else. And that's amazing, but there are some side effects, which are that you're stressed, which are maybe that you are, maybe you're resisting to hire more employees because this would be more about trusting and letting go. So there's even some, your growth curve flattens. So what brought you here won't bring you to the next stage. And basically there are some barriers going on. That's just an example. We could even take another example with somebody who's a people pleaser, then maybe the dad was a very angry guy, and you noticed I'm just pleasing. And that's the best strategy. Like, I'm also not getting angry. If he's getting angry, I'm not sharing my needs and my desires. That just makes him more angry. I'm just gonna check that he's fine, and I'm just gonna be the nice guy. That's the best way that my dad calms down and gives me the love. Again, as a child, you need love. That's an existential thing. So great strategy with such an incompetent dad in some way. But of course, he also has some reasons why he is that way with his parents and whatever. We would figure this then out in the sessions. But best strategy back then. And nowadays, you still do that in your business. Maybe then you're also a people pleaser. Maybe when you're in sales conversations, it again feels like I'm talking with an authority figure, just like with my dad, and I gotta please people, and your clients are taking over even the sales conversations, and you're not really assertive what the client actually needs and wants. They want an assertive person who comes across competent and who is competent, but you can't share that. You're just pleasing all the time, and people make use of that. Or people just decide to go towards, go work together with someone else. Okay, so there are a lot of patterns behind. And if you want to not just improve your relationships, but also maybe get clarity in your business and improve relationships with your maybe co-founders, with your employees, improve your communication skills, and work on just some patterns, then the deeper root, which is done with a psychologist, which is done in some sort of therapy / psychological coaching, might be the most useful way. All right. If you want to experience that, there's a link below the video. You can schedule a call with me for free. Otherwise, I wish you a beautiful day, and I'll see you around.